if I had unlimited money, right? I'm beyond billions, and I'm old. I'm in 80s, 90s. Like, how much money what would I give up to go back to me in my body right now in this day? And
But give up
most
probably
people would
everything.
give up everything.
Yes.
Most people would give up everything. So then if you look at it from that lens, it changes everything. Like your weekend, what you're doing, who you're doing it with, what your mission and even when you're at work, like what is your mission? What are you trying to accomplish? And then when you do have that free time, what are you going to do with it? Because if you're willing to give up everything in the future self of you to have that moment back, you better make it a good moment.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today, I got someone very special. I got someone that I've been dying to bring on, doing really big things in the AI space. He's an investor in our fund, and also just helped us hire our first, not one, but our first 2 AI employees. I'm very excited for this conversation today. I got Ephraim Ebstein. Ephraim, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, Rich. Man, I'm stoked to be here, bro. Big fan, long time podcast watcher. So sitting in the chair is exciting, man.
Dude, I appreciate you coming on, man. And yeah, I'm like surprised that we haven't connected before. We first connected a couple months back. And man, we got so many synergies, so many things in common. You're doing big things, and you're also located here in San Diego. You like being out on the water as well. I'm like, man, how have we not connected before, man?
I don't know. And now you got the yacht coming.
Oh my
We're gonna be
gosh.
together partying on the water. I can't wait.
Oh my gosh. I gotta tell that story later in the podcast, but
Yeah,
crazy,
definitely.
crazy deal. I didn't even know donation boats were a thing. But yeah, long story short, just got awarded a crazy boat out in Miami, donation boat. Some rich guy donated it to this charity for the tax write-off. Somehow I got awarded this thing, crazy deal. But in about 7 weeks' time, it should be I should be taking delivery out here in Ensenada. It's got to get on freight and go through the Panama Canal and all that good stuff. But very excited for it. I'm going to use it as a platform to inspire the youth. I'm going to use it as a platform to do mastermind events, bring investors out in the water, networking. Our yacht meetups are no longer going to be on the Champagne yacht. They're now going to be on Bag Secured 2 yacht, which
I
is
like that.
going to be fun. I'm excited
That's
for
a great name.
But hey, I got to have you and your wife Amy out
We will.
as soon as the boat comes. We'll do a
Definitely.
proper outing, a proper dinner out on the water.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Always looking fresh, by the way, man. The suits,
Thank you, man.
the ties, like the watch game, like everything is just put together.
Thank you.
Have you always dressed like that?
You know, I do dress casual too. I love clothing. I love fashion. But when I'm working, I dress like this because it's kind of the rebel thing to do in the tech space. The tech space is the t-shirt sandal space. So by me dressing up, I'm the rebel.
I like that. You gotta switch it up. See, it's
Yeah.
funny because in my space, it's the opposite.
Exactly.
Traditionally, it's a lot of like older white men in suits. And so for me to be casual in the real estate space, where traditionally it's all suits, it's the contrarian play.
That's right.
But in the tech space, dressing up is the
It's
contrarian play.
That's right.
That is so funny, man.
Yeah, and so in fact, in my business, I actually have everybody wear suits, and our background is from just standard technical support, IT services. Now we've advanced. We're doing cybersecurity. We're doing all the AI stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk a lot about. But in the tech space, you know, IT guys have kind of a weird stigma. They're kind of the socially awkward one. Yeah, like you know the stereotype. And so we're in the services business. Not really. Yes, we're doing IT, but we're really doing services. And so I wanted to present that we're consultants, we're professionals, and that we're different. And one way to do that visually that would give us an advantage is the way we dress. And so have everybody dress in ties. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand it at first, but hey, if it gives us one little percentage point of advantage over our competitors, why not do it?
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely contrarian, and you know, I know when my team got on a call with your team, they were like impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
impressed.
Yeah.
So, anyways, man, I'm curious, and so much to cover and dive into here, especially when we get into the AI employee and how you guys can use it to level up your businesses in your personal life. But how did you even get into this industry to begin with? How did that start?
Man, you know, I I was a little bit entrepreneurial growing up when I was a teenager. I had an uncle. So I'm from middle class. Middle class. We weren't rich. We weren't poor. But for us, like a vacation was going camping. Except I had an uncle, my dad's sister's husband, and he was an entrepreneur. Came out of the dirt, and he built a multi-million-dollar empire. And so he lived in Germany. So sometimes I'd get to go and visit. And when I got to see him and see what he built, kind of gave me like a little bit of that taste. And like somehow deep inside, I was like, I want to be able to do that. I didn't know how, but I was like, I'm going to do something like that. But then later on, you know, you get this pressure, all these people telling you like, take the safe route, take this. So when I was getting out of high school, I didn't really know what to do. They said, get into IT. It's the future. So I did it, went the safe route, did the jobs, you know, and then once I turned 30, I had a friend that was like pushing me, and he was like, dude, why don't you start your own business? You're a really smart guy. Why don't you do it? And I had always really kind of wanted to. And then at that point, I was like, you know what? It was the scariest thing I ever did because I didn't have any money saved up. I was making good money, but I was living paycheck to paycheck. So, you know, most people, their standard of living their income goes up, standard of living goes up. That was me. And so quitting my, you know, 6-figure job, this is 2012. So 6 figures in 2012 was a whole lot more than it is now in 2025. Yeah. And to leave that, basically have no money in the bank and do it was like the scariest thing I ever did in my life.
Mm. Now, AI wasn't a thing back then. How long have you had the AI employee business?
So it's been only about a year. And I mean, AI is basically a year old, maybe a little bit older. You know, ChatGPT was coming out. And when we approached AI, I was at a mastermind. I was in Cabo, and I was thinking about this AI thing. But what I noticed is that everybody is calling their software AI. The second ChatGPT came out, everything's AI. And you're like, not really. Last week it was just automation. Now you're calling it AI. And we noticed a lot of the things that were AI were just maybe machine learning or feature sets, right? Did this one little thing. But I was like, no, I want something that is either going to replace a human and reduce cost to the business or generate revenue. So it has to do something that a human actually does, not just write a report or do something like that. So we started looking at like what was available and what were actual use cases. And the best thing that we could find is that we could create AI employees that sounded and conversated just like humans, and they would do it over text message. Because I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you because we text all the time, right? We don't talk on the phone as much as we text back and forth.
Everyone has a different preference of how they like to be communicated with. Some people prefer text. Some people prefer email. Some people prefer a phone call. But I know where you're going with this. Myself, I prefer text. If you want to get a hold of me, don't call me. Don't leave me a voicemail.
Yeah, you're going to go to voicemail.
Definitely don't leave me a voicemail. Shoot me a quick text. And if you really want to get a hold of me, it should be a quick, short text.
That's it.
But here's the thing. Some people prefer the other means. Like I was getting an appraisal done recently at one of my properties, and the appraiser, he would not answer a text. He would not answer an email. But if you called him, he'd pick up right away.
Oh, that's funny.
He's
funny.
Old
school.
Very old school. Yeah, old school. Now, I would guess the majority of Americans prefer text, especially the younger generation.
It's definitely going that way, especially in the world of business. You are in meetings pretty much all day long for a lot of jobs. And so you're on a Zoom meeting, you get a text, you can respond to it really
so much quicker.
Yeah, yes. So much quicker.
And don't, I mean, this is a general rule of thumb for anyone listening that's trying to, you know, communicate with anyone or sell anything, or just, this is like general communication 101. Stay away from these big, long text messages. It's just so hard for people to read.
It's just a little back and forth.
When I get these, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't, it's overwhelming to even think about it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's true, 100%. That's
just to the point. What do you need? And let's keep this conversation
going. I mean, they're already looking at like the response rate of text versus phone and email is pretty much 10-1. So right now, people communicate over text constantly. They want information. They don't necessarily want to get on the call unless they have to. It's not to say that calls are dead or emails are dead. It's just a preferred. It's a very unutilized way of communicating. And in a year from now, I'm sure that AI will also be doing phone calls, and I'm a little sad about it because it's going to replace a lot of people's jobs. I've already gotten a taste of like some of the the AI phone conversations, and it's not good enough where I think it can replace. It's not going to replace any jobs in high customer service, but like you call AT&T or like Spectrum or T-Mobile, like all that basic stuff, all those jobs are going to be toast. They're going to be gone. The AI voice conversations are pretty far advanced, and it's just only a matter of time and not a lot of time before it can have full conversations and do automated things on a phone call that you might need.
So, question for you. So, the AI employee that you onboarded for us, her name's Brooklyn. She's going to be working on the concierge side with the hotels, helping guests with, where would you like to go out to eat tonight? Can I recommend some Italian restaurants, that sort of thing? They can do that, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's going to do. And then it's going to show them opportunities where there might be more revenue. So, hey, we have an opening on our, presidential suite. Would you like an upgrade? Something like that.
Yeah. Or, hey, we have an extra evening available tomorrow. We can book it out for 50% off. Maybe it's a Monday night or a Sunday night. We weren't going to have a high occupancy anyways. We might as well rent that room out for 50% off. And then that's an upsell, right? That's more revenue for us. So I love those different levers that they can pull there. But I'm curious, you're saying that these employees now, in addition to the text, they're trained to actually jump on a phone call as well?
So we haven't done the phone call yet. Right now, we are just focused on text. I feel the phone is still, it's kind of there, but it's not there good enough. But the text is there good enough. And so right now, we have so much business with the text that's kind of our bread and butter is the text, because people love to communicate on text. We can have AI employees that we train. We give them names. We give them personalities. We have thousands of text conversations. And here's the crazy thing. We're having thousands to tens of thousands of conversations for different clients going every day. Nobody even knows they're talking to AI. They just think they're talking to somebody in the office. And now the cool thing is that you can also have let's say it's a revenue generation one, like a sales activity, you can have your sales team watching the conversations. They can take over a conversation. They could, if the person calls the phone number that's been texting them, you could have it go to somebody in your office. So, for example, we've been doing one for Garrett White, and we named the AI employee Mark Swan, which is the real name of one of his sales guys. Now, in that case, if someone's conversating with Mark can see the conversation. He could take over the conversation. He could jump on a phone call and call him from the number that's been texting them. So the AI is just kind of a clone of him that can do a lot of conversations, but no one can really replace Mark Swan on the phone, right? And if you're doing a high ticket sale, at a certain point, you're going to want to qualify. If the person's qualified, you might want Mark to get on the phone.
Yeah, that's really good. So I'm thinking about maybe someone's listening to this podcast right now, and there's a lot of people out there that have coaching businesses online, whether it's in the fitness space or whether it's in whatever space it might be. Selling in the DMs by chat is a real thing, right? Especially for the low ticket offers, 2,000, 3,000, maybe 5K and below, you can sell in the DMs.
Absolutely, because it's not even, especially if you have volume, it might not even be worth someone getting on the phone. I'll give you an example. We have a client, they sell semi-precious stones like crystal, jade. They also sell like the polishing tools. They get about 5,000 inquiries about like, hey, what kind of stones do you got in purple this month? And hey, what is the right saw to cut jade? But these are low dollar amount stones. It's not worth it for them to even answer those. Now we have an AI employee that now will answer all those questions. It's so conversational. They just will be like, hey, well, what are you trying to make? Are you doing a necklace, a ring? Like all goes back and forth, answers the question, gives them the link, walks them through the purchase process, all with no human involved.
Wow. And so In that scenario, you can have a AI employee in your DMs on Instagram?
You
Really?
can.
Wow, that's
Yeah, we can
nice.
also do WhatsApp too.
WhatsApp as well. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then like let's just say with that example with that company right there, how much? Because you said, hey, it's not worth their time to get involved with a real human there, but with the AI in there, from a cost perspective, it makes a lot of sense.
A lot of
Because
sense.
what's the average cost of an AI employee?
Around $3,000 a month.
$3,000 a month.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you kind of look at that, it's, and just for context, one AI employee can do up to 15,000 text messages a day.
How much could a human do, you think?
I don't know. I mean, how many text conversations? If you hired someone just to sit here and answer all texts, answer all DMs, go back and forth all day long, especially if you're doing any kind of outreach, I don't know, couple hundred maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's equivalent to 6 or 7 real people.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah,
That's crazy, man.
yeah. So it works. I mean, it's definitely not for every business, but for businesses that have, let's say, a lot of people that have done business with them in the past that you want to now reach out to, reignite them, it's a great use case. If you have a lot of flow, it's a great use case as well.
Yeah. So back to the selling in the DMs. If someone wanted to bring in an AI employee to sell in the DMs, you can qualify, engage in conversation, figure out what the pain point is, press on the pain point, and then present some sort of offer and even price drop and close all in the DMs
All in the DMs.
and collect payment. If you
Well,
they can send a payment link and all
well,
that?
yeah, it'll probably go through like a payment portal, like however
Yeah.
you're.
But could it drop a payment link?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. It can also schedule
and confirm it's been
and
paid.
confirm. Look, so it could even also qualify so that it sets appointments, and then it like puts it on your calendar and texts you and says, "Hey, Rich, we just scheduled someone for you."
Dude, this is so good. I would love to have you come guest speak on my 7-figure creator call. And I think this would be a huge value to all the folks in the community, to have you come on and just really talk about the AI employee and how they can use it to their advantage, whether it's selling in the DMs or via text. But I think that's a huge value add.
Yeah,
It's very
I
revolutionary.
would love that. And the cool thing about AI, everyone's kind of used to chatbots, and you start just like trying to get past it, get to a real person. With the AI, it's so conversational. It has a name, has a personality. We'll throw in emojis, throw in spelling errors. Like people don't even
Yeah, and you mentioned you guys even stagger the response times,
the text,
right?
right? Yeah, exactly. So when you're texting with me, sometimes you might respond in 30 seconds. Sometimes it might take you a few minutes. It goes back and forth like that. That's how we'll also have the AI communicate. So
Yeah,
it
that makes
staggers
sense.
it. Yeah.
Because I think with a lot of automated responses, you get a response in like literally 3 seconds, and so hey, this is
Right
not a
away.
human.
Yeah, you're right. And it's like perfect response. And it's like if then statements. If you say this, then I'm going to respond this. And so you're like agent, because you're just trying to get it to get you to where you want to go versus the AI employee that's actually conversational and going there.
And does it get
shocking.
smarter over time as you train it
Yeah,
more things
exactly.
and it gets to know your personality more?
Exactly. So we train it. We also give the AI employees, like I said, personalities. So we'll say, hey, you're a woman, you're a millennial, you're funny, you're flirty, you're professional, you're serious, whatever the personality is right for the role is what we will do. And it'll learn more over time. And just imagine you hired someone off the street. You said, hey, this is your job. You're going to communicate. You're going to do customer service. These are all the things you need to know about our business. These are, in your case, hey, you need to know this about the hotels and the properties and the returns. And it takes a little time for for that person to get caught up to all that information. So if someone asked someone on your team, hey, what is the cash flow on this projected property, they're going to have to learn that. So in the same way, we're going to teach that to the AI. And as more time goes, they're just going to know more and more and more. And then usually during that training time, you're going to really want to, just like an employee, you're going to watch the conversations, make sure they're answering it. You say, hey, you know what? You're being too casual. Speak a little more professional. Hey, I don't want you to use the word check-in. I would like you to use the word follow-up, just like you would use a regular employee. And you start to train it, and then over time, the employee becomes amazing, just like a human does.
Wow. How long do you think it would take to onboard a AI employee and fully train them up to where their competency levels, for the most part, where you want it to be? let's just say, 90% of where you want it to be, and this to be in your DMs,
Yeah.
let's just say, for
I
example.
would say, okay, you could usually get them trained, I would say, to 70% where they're conversational within about 3 weeks. It's the last 30% that takes a little bit more time. And the training just actually never fully stops because just like an employee, they learn more things. They're going to become better and better over time.
Yeah, that's so good. What are some other areas that you see people leveraging AI employees and seeing a lot of growth?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned the voice thing is when I saw and heard the voice thing, we have a partner that's doing big on the voice. They're really focusing on the voice, and they've been replacing like data call centers overseas, like outright. And I know those are overseas jobs, but it was kind of shocking. Like the one I was listening to was for a solar company doing like customer support, and they actually had it call me. I had a full on conversation about, and I gave it a very realistic scenario because I had to replace some, not replace, add some solar panels recently. So it was kind of a good test, and I just said, oh yeah, this is the system I'm using. I'm looking to add a few more panels. Like, how much do you think it could save me on electricity? I went through a whole conversation like I would a normal person, and it booked me an on-site professional to come and look at it. That whole process was crazy good. I kind of knew I wasn't talking to a real person, but it was so good that it was passable. And it kind of made me sad because I was like, there is going to be thousands of people without work. Now, on the flip side, with any technology, I think it creates a lot of skilled jobs as well because there's people like us that have to be able to integrate it, to make it work, to train. So there's a lot of new jobs that open up, but I think a lot of those entry level jobs are going to evaporate.
Mm. Yeah, talk about what that kind of looks like, because I think when I look into the competition out there and the future of AI and technology, I mean, technology, continually evolves at a quicker and quicker and a quicker rate. If you think back in the 1930s, right? Like airplanes just became a thing, and we hadn't gone to the moon yet, and just the way technology was done. I mean, there was no internet back then. There was no cell phones. I mean, if you want to think cell phones and internet, I mean, we're only going back so many decades. And so to think like where we are today now, and then how quickly technology is evolving and the way things are done, I mean, it's evolving at a much quicker and quicker rate. And so I look at people out there that have businesses today that are entrepreneurs, maybe they're real estate investors, and if they're not using AI right now and they're not using technology, social media is another one. I'm like, dude, like it's hard to compete with the folks that are learning and adapting to the new times. And that's why, I think a lot of these, the boomers that are aging out, the mom and pop owners of these small businesses that are starting to retire now, a lot of them have underperforming assets because they have not adapted to all the technology. And so I think there's a massive opportunity here for anyone listening to this podcast right now that's savvy enough to learn the game, and you don't even have to learn it yourself, right?
Right.
Like
You just need to leverage.
ask the who.
Yeah.
Who knows it? Who is the person that is an expert in AI? Who is the person that's an expert in social media? Who's the person that is an expert in running paid ads? And get connected to those folks, implement it, integrate it into your own personal business. And I'm telling you right now, it is the sauce, and there's a big gap in the marketplace in terms of how people are operating using all the technology and how people are operating not using the technology. And so I really believe it's a massive thing. And it's going to continue to become more and more of a big thing as this gap kind of widens.
Definitely. I mean, it's like a company saying, hey, we're not going to use computers. You're going to get dusted. So, and it's changing way faster than it used to. So, like you said, what you're doing with the properties, you're buying these hotels that were underperforming. Of course, you're making them look better. Of course, you're making them like Instagrammable, but you know who the audience is. You now have to be able to market, get their attention to come to the hotel versus the other hotels or the Airbnb. But because you're doing that, now you can take that asset and you can make it a very profitable endeavor. And you're even bundling them up. You're doing really cool, which is a big reason that I wanted to invest with you. But there's, if you look at that business model as an example, if you're doing it the way you were doing it 30 years ago, it's not probably you're going to have a really, really hard time competing.
Hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely hard to compete with those that are utilizing the technology. And yeah, I mean, to give you an example, one of the hotels that we bought, it was a mom and pop seller, and they were so out of touch with the times that they had no social media presence. But not only that, they weren't on any of these booking channels. So like all the primary booking channels, booking.com, hotels.com, Expedia, they weren't even utilizing those. They just had a direct booking site because they just didn't know better. And that was the only piece of real estate they owned. And so, I think for anyone listening to this, the opportunity is really identifying some of these underperforming businesses out there. It doesn't need to be a hotel, it doesn't need to be real estate, but there's a lot of small businesses out there that, are severely underperforming because they simply just don't have any tech. And you could probably acquire some of these businesses for pennies on the dollars, and pick up seller financing and then implement a lot of the tech stack and create a huge lift and a huge value add component simply by doing that. And a lot of this stuff doesn't cost much to implement,
Yeah, it's huge.
in the grand scheme of
It's
things.
going to be huge. It's
Yeah.
going to be huge.
And social media, I mean, it's free to post on social media.
It's free.
So
Yeah.
why would you not be utilizing it?
You got to leverage it. It's the only way. It's the way people shop. I mean, I don't even, if I go into a new city, even in San Diego, if I want to try a new restaurant, it's because I probably saw it on Instagram, or if I'm in an area and I'm looking for something, I open up my Google Maps, I'll do a search, and I look for things that have high Google ratings. And if it's like less than 4.1, I don't want to even eat there. And I'm really looking for the 4.7s and the 4.6s and 4.8s. And then I like, oh, that has a lot of reviews and it has good stars. I want to check that out.
Yes. So what are some of the craziest businesses that you've heard of implementing an AI employee into their strategy?
Oh man. So one of the early ones we do for debt collection, we have one that they buy bad debt. And what's interesting is we created an AI employee to be able to reach out to people and get them basically on a call with a debt collector. And I don't want to go into all the details of it.
And this is via text, and they'll set up
Via
the call.
text,
Let's tee it up.
and the response ratio is insane. And now that they're having us, because they're running out of text limits, each one can only do 15,000 a day. So now we're building multiple AI employees for them. So that was an interesting use case. We have one,
And it's actually more effective than a real human reaching out.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah,
Dude,
because
I
you call,
believe
you're
it.
just going to voicemail. You're not going to talk to anyone.
Yeah, I believe it. Especially with a lot of these companies using, overseas VAs, and we do have a team of Philippine or VAs in the Philippines, and some of them crush it. But the truth is, when you get on the call with a lot of these overseas VAs, there's typically a language barrier. And then if you ask anything that's outside of the norm, there's typically some, delay in response, or maybe they don't know how to address it, where it seems like you could train this AI employee to address it in a way that's going to come off how you want it to come off.
There's even new AI that I just saw recently, and this is going to be a huge game changer for the overseas stuff, is they'll talk, it removes the accent.
Wow.
So like people will
So you
talk.
can tell them any accent you want?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it like removes the accent, so they'll just think they're talking to, someone in the US. It's not quite there yet, where it's like, it is there in the sense that the AI can do it, but making it real time, conversational without the little bugs, it's getting there. And it's pretty impressive. I think that's going to be a big thing in the future.
Yeah. Do you think AI social media will be a thing, like in terms of like shooting content? Because, right now you go shoot content, do a property tour, or maybe even easier would be like just a talking head video, and you're going to shoot a 45-second, video clip that you put out on Instagram and TikTok. Is that something that AI can just,
I think the
generate
editing
something?
and all of that, but I think also some people are getting kind of sick of the AI images, because I don't know, on my Instagram, I see the AI images and I'm like, don't show me this. I don't want to see like some made up animal or some landscape that I now found out wasn't, or some house architecture that wasn't real. So I think there's going to be the advantage, the human the human factor, the human touch, you Rich Summers showing a property or something like that, nothing can really duplicate that. But I think maybe the editing of it, like you could probably give it raw content, it could probably spit out a pretty amazing video.
And
uh,
it would look real.
I think yeah, it looks pretty real, but not. I mean the image part. But I'm saying if you took real content that you shot, then you wouldn't have to have the editors doing all the work to
Oh, I
edit
see what
it,
you're
chop
saying.
it up. Now I think you could also. I don't know if have you seen some of these AI like movie trailers that people have been making?
No.
Bro, it's pretty shocking. Like people are gonna be able to make their own AI movies pretty soon. Just go on like AI movie trailers. They'll take a trailer like Lord of the Rings, for example, and they'll make it look like it was a version of it from 1950s Paravision, and all the characters are AI and they're moving around, and it's kind of entertaining, and it's pretty wild. So there's that. I think people can make movies pretty soon, all AI, without having to have any kind of actors. But I don't know. Not everybody's gonna like that. Some people gonna like it. Some people are not.
Yeah, I can definitely see this change in the game for so many things. Now, with the content, I think having a real human element to it, I think the authenticity of that is still going to probably win the game in the long run. But in terms of leverage for all these different things, I mean, I think the opportunity is really endless. I was just thinking while you were talking, one of my good buddies, Champagne Dave. He owns Champagne Yacht out here in San Diego, and it's a charter service. But I was just thinking, like, even for him, and he's been telling me, hey, I need to hire an assistant to handle the phone calls that we get from the paid ads and all the inbound. And I'm thinking, like, this AI employee would be perfect
For that.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. How many people can I take on the yacht? Hey, what are the open dates? Like, hey, I'm allowed to bring a pet. Like all these kind of
Yeah.
crazy questions he's
And
gonna
even
get.
if he had, let's just say, a cancellation, a last minute cancellation, and they got a Saturday night coming up this weekend, a great opportunity in the middle of summer.
Hey, Rich,
You
I know
can
you were thinking
blast,
about something. We got
yeah,
a
can
cancellation.
text blast the entire list and be like, hey guys, we had a last second opportunity. We'll love to have you guys out. We can give you a nice discount and get you guys taken care of. It's this Saturday. Let me know if you have any questions or if you're ready to move forward.
Perfect use case.
Yeah,
Easy.
that's so
It's
good.
easy.
That's
an
so
easy
good,
one.
man.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna have to connect you guys. I think he'd be a good candidate.
that'd be great.
And you have to meet this guy anyways. He's a good dude. Traditionally, we've been renting his yacht for our yacht meetups, but now with the new one, we're gonna have to do it on our own.
That's great, man. Yeah. If he's got a yacht, he must be cool. I love yachts.
Yeah, he's got the Champagne yacht, and he's got a personal yacht called the Caviar yacht, and that's a 72-foot Sunseeker. And he just had to do an engine replacement on that boat. 2007 built, so it's 18 years old. One of the engines just completely went out randomly, and cost of those engines not cheap. $500K for a brand new engine, and $250K to completely rebuild it. So he's like rebuilding it, and he's got a couple months of his boat being down, but good dude. And yeah, the boat industry is an interesting industry. You can charter out here in San Diego. I don't know if you know this, but there's a high barrier to entry. And so to charter more than 12 passengers, you got to get a Coast Guard's charter license. It's very, very hard to get one. You need like a US built boat. You need to go through all these loopholes to get one. But if you do, it's very lucrative. And if you have the right boat, the right social media marketing, you can do very well. But I believe his boat, his Champagne yacht, older boat, like 1970s vintage. Check this out. This is pretty dirty. He bought it for $350K. Put a couple $100K into it. So he's about all in for $550. And that thing pushes top line like it's pushing 1.6, 1.7 top line with pretty good profit margins.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, most boats are losing enterprises. So if he's doing that, he obviously has like he's business savvy and making it work. But it is really hard to rent boats here because, like we recently went to Fiji, and I wanted to live on the water for a week, and so we found a really big catamaran. I just rented it for me and my friends, and we had the
We're out in Fiji?
Yeah, in Fiji.
Very
I wanted
nice.
to go some remote islands. I wanted to go dive out there, and it was like the crew of 4 plus us 6, and we were just sailing around those islands, having a great time. But those options, like to try and find that in San Diego, I'm like, why can't I just find a boat and just go to Catalina? It's kind of a pain, like you said. It's not that easy.
No, it's not, especially to do what you're alluding to. So I think to take a private charter to Catalina, have a captain and all that, there's not a lot of product for that. You do see a lot of the group charters that would stay here in San Diego. They can take you around the bay.
Yeah,
go
take you fishing for the day, all that kind of stuff.
take you out to
Yeah.
Glorieta. You can do some group stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not like Florida where, it's very common to where you can, charter a boat for an entire week with a captain and a chef and go, hop around the islands for a week. It's not that. You don't have that here. And so I think there's a gap in the marketplace for something like that. But, I also think that if you can find the right boat and you can get the charter certificate, because that's the big question mark. If you go buy a boat that is, let's just say, elsewhere in the company or elsewhere in the country that already has the Coast Guard certificate, you're gonna pay an arm and a leg, a big premium. So the play would be to buy a boat that's American built, that will be conducive with it, bring it here, and then just hope that you can get the charter certificate. If you could do that and set it up correctly, you can market correctly, and you have the right boat for it, I think you can do very well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
That'd be
but
good.
big barrier to entry. So you're into fishing, spear fishing. Tell me about
Spearfishing,
that.
I love. It's like, I don't know. It's so great. So anyone that likes snorkeling, scuba diving, anything, I always grew up fishing. I just rod and reel. My uncles used to take me. And I remember I think I was like 21, and I was at work one day, and this guy, you're like, hey, what did you do the weekend? Blah blah. And the guy's like, dude, I was at the beach. He's like, it was kind of crazy. I saw these guys, and they were dragging fish out of the water. And I was like, what do you mean they're dragging fish out of the water? He's like, yeah, they were like swimming in the water, spearing fish, and they pulled out these big fish. I didn't even see it with my own eyes. He just told it, and it, like, my brain was like, I have to do that, because I always loved the ocean. I always loved diving. So very next weekend, I'm, buying some gear. I'm going out there, and I just have never stopped. And now I like going to all over the world. Most of the time, I'm not even shooting fish. I'm just kind of waiting for the right fish, because I eat all the fish I'm taking. I'm not just like killing everything. But I just love being in the ocean. It's like being in another world. So yeah, just seeing there's a little aspect of danger there, and I like it.
Yeah. So how deep are you typically diving down?
I'm diving average between like 30 and 50. I can dive to 75. And there's guys that, by the way, can dive way, way deeper than me and do way more than me, but it's also kind of risky. A lot of people die of shallow water blackout. So I try to be pretty conservative. Yeah.
What is shallow water blackout?
So basically what it is
Does that have to do with the pressure?
it a little bit has to do with pressure, but your oxygen is depleting in your body, and it usually happens to people that are better. When you're new at freediving, and you're holding your breath, when you get that urge to breathe, you're just like, "Oh, I gotta go to the top." Once you get better, you start relaxing more, and you realize that, like, I don't need to breathe the second my body is telling
Because you
me.
don't have oxygen.
You don't have oxygen. You're
I
holding
thought
your
you had a
breath.
tank on.
No, no, no. I'm holding my breath,
Damn,
diving
that makes
down,
it even
diving up.
crazier. You said 60 to 75 feet
Yeah,
without a tank?
yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
how do you do that?
You just get relaxed.
That's
Yeah, you
insane.
learn there's breathing techniques, and then just, the way you dive down, kind of the angle, the speed. You don't want to go too far. I have those really, I don't know if you've ever seen free divers that have these really long fins, kind of not like scuba fins, but mine are about this long. So I'm taking these really like slow, large kicks, and you're just kind of like, you're trying to get your heart rate down, just relax, check everything out, come back up. And
That's scary, dude.
yeah, but with the shallow water blackout, what'll happen sometimes is you're down there too long, or let's say you're messing with a fish down there and you don't pay attention to how much time is coming up as you're coming up, because when you go down, your lungs collapse. So all the oxygen, it feels like your lungs are empty, but there's the same amount of oxygen. It's just kind of like compressed, and a lot of it's absorbed into your bloodstream as well. When you're coming back up, it starts to expand again, and it's also like pulling the oxygen out of your system back into the lungs. And so usually when people pass out, sometimes it's deeper, but usually the reason they call it shallow water blackout, the guy might have been 100 feet down, but he'll black out right on like a few feet from the surface.
Mm.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And when you black out,
Is it harder to like surface and catch your breath if you're blacked
if
out?
you're blacked out, you're just gonna start sinking, and you'll wake up for one last breath, or actually you won't wake up. You'll just at some point do an involuntary breath, and you'll suck oxygen. Then it's over. If you happen to have a buddy that kind of sees you black out, and they grab you and bring you to the surface and smack you and wake you up, you'll usually take your breath on the surface and you'll come back to. But it's if you're alone or you're with friends but they don't see it. So that's why I'm very conservative. I don't want to die. So I'd rather just have a good time and take it easy.
You ever just say, "Hey, I'd rather just get a tank"? Did they do spearfishing with a scuba tank?
There are some guys, in most of the world they don't. There are some guys on the East Coast, like Florida and stuff, they do it. They'll dive deep wrecks, like really deep, and they'll shoot fish. But a lot of the fish out here, the big ones, right? You're not going to see them on a tank because there's a lot of noise, a lot of bubbles, and so they just kind of stay
So it
away
scares
from
the
that.
fish away.
Yeah, so you
Got
want to
it. That
just
makes
kind of
sense.
blend into the environment.
Damn. So what's the longest, like on a typical dive, how long are you typically holding your breath?
I'm usually between a minute and a minute and a half is my average
And that's enough
dive.
to go down how deep?
Oh, I can, up to 75 feet, but usually I'm not hunting at that depth.
Isn't that scary? We got to get, by the way, we got to get Oscar a microphone.
Yeah.
I've been saying this. I'm like, we got to get you a mic.
Usually I'm between 30 and 50 is
Yeah.
where I usually hang out the most.
The listeners don't know this, but Oscar's always in the background laughing, or he's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like with
Yeah,
this
we
story
need,
right
we need
now.
the commentary.
We got to get him a mic. And then sometimes I'm like, "Hey, can we look something up real quick?" And so then if he has the mic, he can look something up and then chime in. So we got to get you a mic. That's gonna happen. And actually, we already have a third mic somewhere. We just got to get you set up. There we go. I like it. But anyhow, so 60 to 75 feet deep, a minute to a minute and a half. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty good, but there's guys that are just way better. I have some of my buddies, they're, like 150 feet, they get easy.
Have you ever blacked out?
I've never blacked out.
Close?
No. The closest that I was scared of it happening was, okay, I shot this really big fish, a grouper, and it was down in Mexico, and he was big. He was like 150 pounds, maybe 170. He was big. And he went down, he got tied up in all these rocks, and we were trying to get him out, and my buddy went down, he shot him from the top, and we were like pulling him out of this cave. So one line, if when you shoot, you got this line, like a really long line, and go to like a float system for these big fish. So one line was going down through the rocks, he was coming up, and then the other line, we had shot him from the top. So we were pulling him up, and then the line that was getting in the rocks was stuck. So this fish was like maybe at 30 feet. It wasn't that deep. And we had two lines, one pulling down, one pulling up. And so we were on the surface. Okay, what do we do? Let's go down there, cut the first line that's going to the rocks. We'll deal with it later. We'll get the fish to the surface with the shot. So I swam down. I asked my buddy, I'm like, are you sure the shot that you did was good? He's like, yeah, totally good. I go down there, I cut it, and we start pulling him up. The first shot was in his skull, and his giant skull didn't go that deep. And once the pressure relieved off the bottom, the shaft just fell out. So I had this fish that was half alive, giant, with a shaft through it, kind of like swimming mid-water. And so I swam down, and I grabbed the spear with the cut line, and I was like trying to get my hands in his gills, and I was like messing around. And I just felt like as we were struggling, we were like just slowly going deeper, deeper, deeper.
Oh, because he was not in.
Yeah,
like,
and he
the
was
bottom.
heavy, so we were like sinking. And then I dropped my weight belt to try and give me more buoyancy, go up. And then at a certain point, I'm like, I'm gonna die if I keep this up. I just have to let the fish go. So it was a sad day,
Damn.
but I made it alive.
Damn. What was the depth out there? Ballpark.
Well, he was like on the bottom where he was about 60 feet. Where he was water column was about 30 feet where I cut the line. And then I was like messing around with him, and we were maybe probably sinking down.
Damn.
But yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was
Well, you
crazy.
made the right call there.
I made the right call, but I think about that all the time. Like I would have done it completely different, and I wouldn't have lost that fish. So Yeah, try not to lose fish like that.
Damn. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's a insane sport if I've ever heard of one. I love being on top of the water. I've never loved I like swimming and like jumping in the water like leisure, but I've never had the itch to get scuba
Man,
certified and all that
once
sort of
you're
stuff.
like down in some of these tropical waters where it's really clear, you might feel a little bit different. You put the mask on, you kind of see the world down there. It's fun.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think another crazy sport is wingsuits. Like people get in these wingsuits and
I
they
watch
just
those videos. It
literally
looks so fun.
they literally I mean even base jumping, but jumping off these crazy mountains or even out of planes with the wingsuit is insane. And it's like I mean the speed at which they're going is incredible, and sometimes they're going through these caves and these arches and
It
just like
looks
barely
so
missing these
fun.
buildings.
It
It looks
looks so
insane.
fun. It looks
Would
so
you do
fun.
it?
I want to say yes. I want to do it. I'm not really afraid of doing it. But I know there's a high likelihood of death. So I don't know if that makes sense. Like I'm not afraid of jumping out of the plane and flying. I'm just like, what are my odds, and is it really worth it to my family if I die?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing air traffic control, and this pilot is late night. While I was working graveyard shift at I want to say this is LA Center at the time. Maybe it was SoCal Approach. Yeah, it was SoCal Approach. Anyways, I'm working late night, and there's a VFR small Cessna going through. Somehow we got in the conversation, chatting. There's no airplanes on frequency at like 3 in the morning, and one way or another, this guy's telling me how he base jumps. And he's like, I've base jumped off of like almost every building in downtown San Diego. And so we started talking. He's like, yeah, check out some videos. So he literally got my number on frequency in the middle of the night, and he started sending me some videos. And sure enough, this guy's base jumped off of a lot of the buildings downtown.
What's the
And
legalities? He just
and
goes.
literally
Does it?
he'll just jump off and then pull a chute. I'm like, that's insane,
It's
dude.
insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple. So we used to work when I was doing ATC. We would work all these jump zones, and I've had two incidents where there was one base jumper. These planes would go up to like 12,000, 14,000 feet, and they'll just report 2 minutes prior to jumpers, and we'll typically report and just make sure there's no aircraft flying in between them, in between the jump zone, make sure it's safe, and then we'll typically put out like a call on frequency. It'd be something shit, it's been so long. It'd be like attention all aircraft, caution, parachute jumping, conducting in the vicinity of X airport, 2000 and below, use caution. And if there was any aircraft kind of like that we weren't talking to that was flying through the jump zone, we would say, hey, hold your jumpers till advised. Traffic is, 1 o'clock, 3 miles southbound, altitude or type unknown. And anyways, I had one aircraft that there was a lot of traffic below him that I wasn't talking to. And so I said, hey, hold your jumpers, hold your jumpers. And after a few minutes, he's like, hey, jumpers away. And he just went on the descent. Turns out this dude ran out of gas on the way down, ran out of fuel, and crash landed into a golf course, flipped the plane over, totaled the airplane. It was all over the news. Luckily, the pilot, he went to the hospital. He was fine. That's one incident. But had another incident where the jump plane said, hey, we're actually going to do jumpers away out of the jump zone. And it was like a solid 6-7 miles away from the jump zone. And he said, hey, these guys are going to be, they got jumpsuits on, and they're going to be, or wingsuits on, and they're going to be traveling laterally. And so they threw him out. The guys collided midair. And the pilot tells me, he goes, hey, we lost one of our jumpers. And I'm going to go down and look for him. And so he dove down and like into a residential area and started looking for the guy. One of the jumpers that got knocked out midair, he went straight down and landed into someone's roof into a residential home. So it's a sad thing, but I say all this in that, people that are always doing the jumps and the skydiving, from what I've seen on the ATC side, and some of these jump zones have like aircrafts that like major airliners that literally, if we don't turn them, they're going to go right through the jump zones. And so from what I see, I'm like, dude, this is a pretty like, it's like the wild, wild west out there.
There's
It's
probably some
crazy.
other cool things you could do.
Yeah,
But I get it.
I still think it's a really cool sport.
It's
I mean, I've seen
super
the
cool.
YouTube videos and like what they can do. I'm like, that is really badass.
I love it.
But I've never jumped out of an airplane to date. I don't think you could pay me to do it, but maybe. I don't know. It
Right.
seems like a
I
hell
don't
of
know.
an
You got a
adrenaline
lot
rush.
going on in life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Hey guys, we just got another boutique hotel under contract in my hometown of San Clemente, California, located not too far from the beach. This will make 5 boutique hotels in our real estate investment fund. So if you are looking for passive income and tax benefits, visit summerscapital.com/invest to book a free call with my team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest to book a free call with my team. Now back to the show.
So you were air traffic controller. You're telling me about this. What kind of made you switch and go, say, hey, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to leave, because that's a pretty you got to do training. It's not just a entry level job. You got to
Totally
work your way up to get into that role.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Yeah,
leave something
man.
secure like that,
Yeah, it's a career that no one leaves. They pay you a pension actually if you do 11 years as an air traffic controller with the FAA. You do 25 years total. I was 11 years in, but if you do 25 years, they will pay you a pension the rest of your life. And so, it's a career field that not a lot of people leave. But I was 11 years in, and I was, for the first time in my life, I had felt like I was no longer growing, I was no longer progressing, and I was like, what's the next path for me? What's the next move? And I wasn't really thinking at the time that I would get into real estate investing and like build this big thing. I literally was just thinking like I would pick up a real estate deal or two and get some passive income on the side, and it'd be like a side hustle. And I overheard a coworker in the break room in between working airplanes. His name's Mike. And Mike was talking about how he just bought a fourplex in Cleveland. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I'm like, how did you do that? And he said, go read this blue book on real estate investing and go listen to this podcast. It was the Bigger Pockets podcast. The book was a blue book on real estate investing by Brandon Turner.
yeah.
And you've heard of that book?
I know who Brandon Turner is.
Yeah.
I don't know the book, but I know Brandon Turner.
Yeah, we're in talks with Brandon trying to do a podcast swap here soon. But yeah, that would be cool. We've never met in person. But anyhow, long story short, I started binge listening to this podcast, and I started just literally devouring real estate investing books. And I cashed out a 401k. That was my only seed money that I had at the time to buy an 11-unit building in Cincinnati for $350K. This multifamily. I still own it today. And I partnered with that guy, Mike, and another coworker named Sean D. Martell. We were all air traffic controllers. We all cashed out our 401ks, and we went in on a 32-unit apartment building in Indianapolis in 2019. And those are my first 2 deals. And I just, at the time, I was just thinking like, oh, we're gonna do a couple deals. And then shortly after that, I was like, I just became obsessed. And I was like, okay, like I started a different podcast with those 2 guys back in 2019 in apartment investing. And we just started interviewing apartment investors. And we met, I think it was like one of the first 10 episodes, John and Tony Azar. Older guys, they've been in the game for a long time, bought and sold 7,000 plus apartment units out of the Southeast or out of Charlotte. And we built a relationship with them, and we asked them to mentor us. And we literally compensated them to mentor us. And we ended up doing not one, but 2 larger deals with them as co-sponsors. So we partnered with them on 2 larger deals in the North Carolinas, which we still own today. But that was my jumpstart into, okay, like how to raise private capital, how to underwrite bigger deals, and just how to think bigger. And that was kind of what like catapulted everything for me. But anyways, long story short, man, I was just thinking one real estate deal, and it's turned into, second deal, third deal, and a bigger thing. And now I'm like, okay, like I'm going to build a really big thing, and I got really good people wrapped around me. And it's been a fun journey, dude. But it's funny because at 33, I felt stuck, and I felt like I had peaked. But at 39, I'll be 40 this summer. I feel like I'm just getting warmed up. I know
Yeah.
this is just the beginning.
Yeah, well, you see a lot of these guys, they really, in their 50s, you see them like going crazy. And it's like Grant Cardone's an example. He's probably in his 50s or 60s before he was successful before, but the amount of success, it just takes time. But I love what you said about the mentors, because that's I'm not doing real estate deals, but I'm doing the investments. I like investing so I can focus on my business. For me, at some point, I would like to do some of my own real estate deals, but not right now, because I know if I take any shiny object is going to take me off my game with my business that I'm doing right now and what I need to do to scale it. But I also don't believe, I'm scared of the stock market. I don't really like it. There's no appeal to me. crypto didn't really appeal to me. And by the way, I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm just talking for me personally. Real estate's what I like. And so I have done a few Airbnbs. I have a fourplex. I should tell you how I got the deal on that. It kind of a crazy deal because I didn't buy it. Someone just gave it to me. Yeah.
Someone gifted you a fourplex?
Well, not quite. I saved him from foreclosure, but but then ideally I'm just putting, I like syndications and stuff,
Yeah.
like, so
More passive stuff.
passive stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I get it, because as you grow as an entrepreneur and real estate investor, business owner, the opportunities get better as you grow, but at the same token, the value of your time increases as you grow. And so more important than the opportunity, I think early on when you have nothing to lose, you have all the time, any opportunity is something that you're going to look at and consider. But as you grow and your value of your time increases, the opportunity has to be that much better in order for you to take your attention off of what you're building and go do this other thing. And, we all only have 24 hours in a day. And so regardless of the team you have and the resources you have and the AI that you have, we still only have the same 24 hours in a day. And so it's like, okay, how can we get more efficient with our time? How can we get more efficient with our schedule? And then at a certain point, it's like, okay, like your cup is filled and you only have room for so much more that you can put in there.
That's it. You gotta prioritize.
You got to cut certain things if you're going to bring something new in.
Yeah, you got to remove something.
And what are you going to remove? Which is a good question. I think sometimes the solution to doing more is eliminating, doing less.
It does. Yeah. So everyone, like, you'll notice people that want to be successful, they're always like, one of the first questions they'll ask is like, okay, what's your morning routine? Like, they want to know what you're doing, but really they should be asking what you're not doing. Not watching Netflix. I'm not doing these things. And by the way, I do watch Netflix. I'm not saying that, but when I'm in go mode, like, I am in go mode. Like, I have to maximize every minute that I can to get as much done as possible. And if I don't have enough time to get things done, I have to remove other things out of my life. So a lot of times it's about what you're removing, And if somebody, I'll tell friends that are, asking me about starting a business and stuff, or they're maybe getting started. I'm like, bro, when you're in the car, you're not listening to music no more. You listen to educational, either a podcast or an audiobook or something like that. Like, you have to maximize every moment so that you're getting as much done as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people that have 9-to-5s, and they have a full-time career, they use that as an excuse not to get into that side hustle or start the business they've always wanted to start, or maybe even just become a real estate investor. And in all reality, it's like, dude, most people start in that position, and it's not the 9-to-5 that dictates, your future. It's what you do with your 5 to 9, 5 p.m. to 9. What do you do with your Saturdays? What do you do with your Sundays? And I love what you said. You said, it's not what you're doing, but it's what you're not doing. I think every successful person out there that, maybe you admire, they've all gone through seasons after season after season to where they're sacrificed certain things, right? And, for me, for example, I'm sure you have a lot of things that you sacrifice. A lot of the stuff that I used to be into that I'm no longer into today just doesn't interest me as much anymore, like fantasy football. I used to love fantasy football. I would have like 4 or 5 season leagues, and I would have daily, what do they call it, DraftKings. I would have daily lineups on Sundays. I don't remember the last time I played fantasy football. I have zero interest in it. Sports. I'm a casual sports fan, Padres season ticket holder, but the regular season, how many games I go to? Probably less than 10%. Whereas before I would go to a lot more sport outings
some people,
and
it's
events.
their life.
I would watch all these games. But, now that I'm building my own thing, it's like I'm kind of playing like real life sports, right?
It's
and it's just
real.
like my own passion, my own hustle, is my own craft, my own game. And the more I put into this game, the more fulfilled I become, and the bigger of a thing that I can build. And so I think you realize at a certain point, to break through to the next level, and there's always another level, you always got to sacrifice another thing in order to get to the next level. And so most people, when they ask themselves, okay, what's it going to take? What more can I do to get to the next level? you often are asking the wrong question. You should be asking yourself, what do you need to sacrifice in order
Yeah.
to get to the next level?
Yeah, it's important because time is so valuable, and you do have to give something up, and you also don't want to give up the wrong thing. A lot of people give up the time with their families, things like that, which
Or their
then
fitness.
their fitness, yeah, and then that's the I think the wrong thing to give up, and but like you said, the fantasy football, why not play the real thing? You're playing a real version of a real game, and which is business, and it's hard and it's brutal and it's super rewarding once you know the rules and you play and you make those investments and those risks, and so that's a much better use of time. I love that. I try to always think about I heard this, like, if I had unlimited money, right? I'm beyond billions and I'm old, I'm in 80s, 90s, like how much money what would I give up to go back to me in my body right now in this day? And
But give up
most
probably
people would
everything.
give up everything.
Yes.
Most people would give up everything. So then if you look at it from that lens, it changes everything. Like your weekend, what you're doing, who you're doing it with, what your mission and even when you're at work, like what is your mission? What are you trying to accomplish? And then when you do have that free time, what are you going to do with it? Because if you're willing to give up everything in the future self of you to have that moment back, you better make it a good moment.
Mm. Yeah, that's really good. And I actually like to look at life in that light or that regard, just to remind myself whenever things do get heavy, whenever things do get overwhelming, because as entrepreneurs, you know this better than me. You've been in the game much longer. We go through multiple periods to where things get heavy. Whenever you push your comfort zone, things are going to arise that you haven't, encountered before, and things do get heavy. Things do get overwhelming. And I always remind myself a couple things. One is exactly what you alluded to. It's, how is my 80-year-old self, my future self, when I'm 80 years old, going to look back at this moment? And it's exactly what you just said. My 80-year-old future self is going to be willing to trade everything at that point to be back in this very moment, dealing with all the problems that I'm dealing with, all the feeling of everything's getting heavy, to be, 30, 40 years younger again. The number two thing I like to ask myself is, I think when I look at life, the best way to measure how much time you have left is months and not years. And average life expectancy for a male in the US is only 77. And so, I'm 39 right now, I'll be 40 later this year. I have about 450 months left on this planet. And so when I think about how much time that really is and how quick that's really going to go in the grand scheme of things, it makes it really easy to take action and enjoy those moments, even when things are heavy, because the level up happens typically after life gets heavy. Life gets overwhelming before the level up happens. And I think when I remind myself those few things, it makes it easy to digest and push
I
forward.
like that. Yeah.
Perspective,
You gotta you breaking through the level up is usually to get to the next level. It's gonna be painful always because you're doing something you've never done before. So if you're gonna do something or get something you never had before, never done before, you gotta do something that's you never done before, and that's not comfortable. It's out of the comfort zone. I like that.
Yeah. You mentioned morning routines. Are you a big fan of morning routines? What
I
do
mean,
you
I'm
do?
pretty consistent. I usually work out. I get up at like 5:30. I work out. I'm usually on the drive to the gym and driving home. I'm, listening to something educational. And then I try to be consistent about this. I'm fairly consistent that I'll write my goals on, like, physically write it out. Not just like type it, not just think it, but I'll write the goals out and I'll write them as if they've already happened, because I'm programming my subconscious. I don't know if you ever like get in the car and you're driving home and you're like, oh yeah, I remember I need to stop at the store, and you're not paying attention. All of a sudden you drove home and you didn't end up at the store. It's because your subconscious knows that you're supposed to go home every day. And so it just does what it thinks it's supposed to do when you're not actively thinking about it. So by writing the goals out and writing them like I've already done it. Some people say it's manifesting. Some people say it's putting it out in the universe. I think that it's you're programming your mind to you're programming your subconscious, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference of what's real and what's imagined. So if you're imagining this is how you would react in a certain situation, or that you've already done this, your subconscious will just automatically do it, And so, yeah, that's just part of what I do, and then I get to work.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
That's really good. I think one of the biggest life hacks, and you've been married for how long?
it's gonna be 22 years. I was
22
born
years.
22 years.
Shout out to Amy.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest life hacks out there right now is having a life partner that is aligned with your vision, with your goals, and you guys complement each other. You guys make each other a better version of yourselves. Because one of the biggest distractions out there, I think, as an entrepreneur that's building his thing, is building his empire, is all the distractions that come with it. Because as you continue to build a bigger thing, there's more and more distractions, right? If you're single, you're probably going out on dates, you're probably around alcohol and going out on parties and all this sort of things, these social outings. And that's a huge distraction. And so like, I think one of the biggest hacks for me was, settling down with a girlfriend that I live with. She's on this, path of no drinking with me. And so, it's been great, going to bed early, not drinking, staying focused, and having a partner that, is aligned with you achieving those goals is such a hack. And it's a cheat code that not a lot of people talk about.
It's a huge hack. You're gonna, most people that are really successful usually have a support system behind it. What I'm talking about, like a wife or someone that's supporting them through that process. And you're gonna together, men and women are stronger together than they are alone. Period. And you see that in the society, especially the Western society we're in. People are just having these casual relationships. They're not ever really building something serious. So amazing to you. And I noticed also when I looked at your stories, and I haven't met your girlfriend yet, but I noticed you guys know your roles and who's doing what, and you're not competing against each other, but you're working together towards something. Everyone wants to talk about being independent. Well, what about depending on each other? Like, right? You're depending on each other. You're working together as a team. You're going to be unstoppable that way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's something to be said about like when I'm in the office and I'm in here, building it with my team like every day. I love coming in here early before everyone else shows up because I need that alone time to really focus before I'm distracted and pulled in a lot of different directions. But, when I'm in here every single day during the week, it allows me to really double down on what I'm building and really truly focus on moving the needle when I know, hey, I got an amazing partner at home, taking care of some of the other things that help support the overall vision that I don't need to worry about. Also, I know I got someone to come home to, versus if you're not in that position, then you got to start managing. Okay, well, like, you're probably dating. That's like a second full-time job. You're planning outings and all these events. A lot of those events involve drinking,
Staying up
late
late,
nights, and all
partying.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And so from a time perspective, having someone that you can come home to, having someone that you can go to bed early with, having someone that you can wake up early with on the weekends and go get stuff done and go work out and hike, and really allows you to kind of be in that really, I don't know, it's a certain state of mind. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And you see, I'm sure it's helping you in your business, and her role is very important, just like your role is very important. And like with Amy, we made a decision, pretty early on, even before I started my business, that she was going to give up working so that she could support me and helping, and that gave me also a purpose as a protector, a provider, that I have to do right by her as well. But then she has a support system, and especially now with the business, I don't have to, if I had to be alone, go on dates, do my laundry, do all these things, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's just not as productive. And it's, you get more in the nuances of it, but you're just together. She has a very important role, and through her doing her role, it allows me to do my role.
Yeah, that's really good, man. That's really good. You got a few videos that you put out on social media that have done very well. I wanna touch on a couple of these, and you break it down for me. So you had one video that got a lot of engagement, and you said stick to one path. Success comes from taking hits and getting good at one thing instead of job hopping. What do you mean by this?
Yeah. So imagine if you're playing chess for the first time and you play a few rounds, the teacher beats you on it, and you're like, man, I hate this. Just chess thing is tough. I don't like it. It's not fun. And now you go to play checkers, and the next guy that plays checkers kicks your butt. And now you go to, play Uno or Hearts. You just keep jumping around. You'll never get good at anything. And I unfortunately had makes me think of someone I know personally, and he just he's very entrepreneurial. He jumps from one thing to the other. And no matter what you do, it's going to be 10 times harder than you ever imagined. And if let's apply it to maybe judo or something, you got to be in there long enough to get good enough to get some hits in, to get some wins in. And that just takes time. It takes repetitions. So if you jump from a job because it's hard or you don't like it and the managers don't understand you and, you don't like the culture or whatever, at a certain point, who cares about that stuff? You just need to get good enough to be good and then become great and then become excellent, then become remarkable. And when you're that, now you can maybe move around and you have more options within that space. But the people that are really good, if I don't know what your first real estate deal was like, but maybe it was your first, maybe it was your second. It was tough. If you left real estate because it was tough and now you wanted to go into crypto and then you lost your shorts on crypto and you go into stocks, you would have been a failure as an entrepreneur. Instead, you kind of buckle down, you focus. It's the exact same thing with a job. Get good at something and make a decision to become the best at it. Find the best person at your job, who's the best guy at a job, and just be friends with them. Learn from them until you become the best.
Dude, I see it everywhere. I think this is the number one thing that most people lack, and I call it the shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
Right? Because people see these bright, shiny objects, and every 2 months, 3 months, they get bored, and then they see another bright, shiny object, and they're like, all right, I'm going to get into that now. And you see it at every level, whether it's starting a podcast, whether it's social media content, whether it's getting the real estate game. They get into fix and flip, and then they want to wholesale, and then they want to get in the Airbnb game, and then they want to do multifamily apartments, and then they want to do retail. And it's they never stick with one thing long enough to actually see some success. And all reality is, it's even going to the gym, right? How many people do you see show up at the gym January 1st? The gyms are packed, and then come February 1st, the gyms are empty.
Quiet again.
And it's the same thing with the podcast. 80% of podcasts die within the first 10 episodes. It's because people think it's fun and exciting. Everything is fun and exciting at first, but then once you actually start it, you're like, okay, the excitement goes away. It's harder than you thought it was. It requires more work than you thought it was, and you're gonna suck at everything at first. And when you suck at something at first, it's not fun. And the key is the middle part, right? Because once you get out, if you're consistent with anything for 12 months, I truly believe that you can beat 99% of all people at most things.
100%.
But the tricky part is, how do you get someone to go from month 2 to month 12 to where they can actually start to see some success, and then it becomes fun? And so that's the tricky part. I think most people just don't have the patience. And so that's why you see people just jump from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. But if you listen to this right now, take this as a reason the bar has never been this low. Most people can't stick to the same thing for long enough to get good at it. And that's most people, and that's why the bar has never been this low. And so if you're listening to this and you're looking for the next thing, pick one thing, go all in, commit to it for at least 12 months. And if you do it for 12 months, 18 months, you're going to get good enough to where it becomes fun. It's going to become a competitive advantage. And then, boom, it's the next thing for you.
Yeah, and think of 100%. Every time you're resetting, starting over, you're just setting yourself back to zero. I remember when I went to a trade school to learn IT. I did it because I didn't really love IT. I wasn't like a computer nerd or nothing like that. I just did it because It seemed like my best option at the time. I did 2 years in the trade school. I got out. The dot-com bubble had burst. So now there was all these kind of technical people looking for jobs. I'm out here with my little degree and no experience trying to get a job. I could not get a job. I was like 6, 7 months in. Fortunately, I started looking for a job before the schooling was out, so I was still going to school. But 7 months in, I still hadn't found a job.
Mm.
And then
What year is this?
this was 22.
Okay.
02, sorry,
02.
22.
Right after the dot-com
2002.
bubble.
Yeah, right after the dot-com bubble. And then at a certain point, I was like, I'll work for free. So I worked for free for 6 months because I could have went somewhere else and started something else, some other career, but I would have lost 2 years of schooling for what? Set myself back to zero again. So I worked for free and I grinded out. And then eventually they're like, man, this guy's pretty good. Let's hire him. I got my first job. Now I was able to get really good at it, jump to my second job and keep it moving. And then eventually now I'm an entrepreneur, but there's so many, so many opportunities, so many shiny objects I could have. And I did go down a couple of shiny objects and I learned some major lessons that have stuck with me. So now I stay laser focused and only at scale. Like now I say, okay, I was doing IT, now I do cybersecurity, but they feed each other. It's not like a side hustle. It's like symbiotic, right? Now I'm doing AI. It feeds each other. It's within my wheelhouse and I can cross-sell both ways, but I'm only doing it at a larger scale as well. But I'm not like, at one time I opened up a gym, CrossFit gym, early when we started the business, a couple years in, and it was a very expensive lesson. The gym never made money. I lost every penny I put into that. It was a fun experience. I learned from it, but why am I trying to run a tech company and a CrossFit gym at the same time?
Yeah, it doesn't
ridiculous.
It doesn't wrap around.
It doesn't wrap around. Like you're doing the podcast thing, you're doing the mastermind, you're doing the real estate. They're all feeding each other.
Yes.
It's completely different.
Yes.
And when you started, you weren't doing all three. You were doing one. And then you added another one. And then you added another one. But that was at scale once you started having success and money was flowing. And never take your eye off the main thing, right? Like keep the main thing. And the new things are like, got to feed the main thing and keep the main thing going.
That's so good, man. That's so good. And you're right. It's like if you can, everything does kind of feed each other. Like the podcast and the social media content is marketing, right?
Well, that's how I found you.
And yeah,
that's
how we connected.
That's how we connected.
You invest with Grant Cardone.
Yep. I invested with Grant, and then I said, and by the way, I love Grant, but I have my financial roadmap of where I want to do my investments, and I said I had Grant, had a couple more spots, and I had some unclaimed spots where I didn't know who it was going to be. So I was like, I'm going to find somebody that I'm going to invest with. I don't know who it is yet. I want to find someone that I feel is trustworthy, that is doing things that I would do myself if I was an investor, and that I have a high confidence that I'm getting my money back. And so then I started looking, see you and your podcast. When I called you, I'm like, I'm ready to invest. And you're like, dude, I never even met you.
Yeah. You like to move quick.
Fast decisions.
Yeah. But I love people that can make a quick decision. I tell the team, I'm like, the number one thing that I care about is speed. And so I'm like, I don't care if we get 100%. We're not going to get 100% of everything right. We're going to probably miss 20% of the decisions we make, and probably go with the wrong path. But it's okay because we're moving really quick. So I'm like, let's just use speed as the priority. And so when we have like a decision to make, let's just make a decision and go. I'm okay if you guys don't make 100% the right decisions, because the speed at which you make decisions really dictates the growth over the long period of time. A lot of people stall to make decisions. And I'm like, dude, the more decisions we can make and just get accustomed to making and just rolling with them, the quicker we're going to grow in the grand scheme of things. And, in the same time, a lot of people are making 1 or 2 decisions in maybe a 3 to 4 day period. We're making 50 decisions. And that compounded over months, over years, over decades is going to be a big difference.
I'm going to have to take that back to my team, because I like that you're telling your team to do multiple decisions, But fast decisions, I'm a big fan. I wasn't a fast decision maker, and then I've kind of learned that, and I've also learned that my success ratio isn't any lower or higher with a fast decision than a slow decision. Maybe faster, maybe better, because it's a lot of times your first inclination is the right one anyway.
Well, I'll give you an example. Like the decision to work with you guys to bring on a couple AI employees.
Yeah, that was fast. You were like, boom, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm like, and in addition to that, it's like we don't need all the fluff and all that sort of stuff. So like, I think a lot of third-party vendors or third parties that maybe you'll jump on an intro call with. And it's like a lot of times I'm like, we already know we're going to try it. Let's just move forward. And with the example to move forward with you guys, I'm thinking, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is we try it for 3 months, 6 months, and it's like, okay,
It doesn't
we can
work. You
always
lost a
cancel
little
it.
money.
Yeah, we
you
can
learned
cancel it.
something. You
But
move
the
on.
upside is tremendous,
Yes.
right? And so I'm like, to me, like that kind of stuff, no brainer. So I tell the team, I'm like, with those kind of things, and I think Warren Buffett he says this very well. He says, like, if you look at your entire life in like an 80-year snapshot, there's really only, you can count on two hands how many decisions in the 80 years actually truly shape the direction of your life. Most decisions that we make throughout a daily basis and a weekly basis, 60 days from now, you're going to completely forget. They really don't matter. And so all these decisions that come up on a daily basis, I tell the team, I'm like, guys, just make a decision and roll. And if it's the wrong decision, I'm okay with it. The likelihood is we're probably going to get 80% of the decisions right. We'll probably get 20% wrong, and I'm totally cool with that.
We'll just course correct. You'll learn from it. You'll
learn
just
from
keep
it.
moving.
Yeah, dude. So that's kind of how I like to
You
move.
less.
But
You
move
also, if you're
quick, too.
making more decisions, you're gonna be less shy of making a decision if you're only making one decision versus 10.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Also, I think respecting other people's time. I always think about that. I think whenever there's a transaction in any marketplace, you get utility from a yes, right? You get utility from a yes. You gain time from a no. So a quick decision to say no to an opportunity is also a good thing, because the other individual gains time from that no. A maybe and a stalled decision you don't gain anything.
Nothing. True.
I
like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I always think about that. So whenever someone brings me a decision or an opportunity, I always try to give them a yes or no right away. And it's okay if it's a no.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can keep moving. You can keep moving. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Starting is about saying yes. Growing is about saying no.
It's true.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I got another one for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like buying nice things, upgrading your lifestyle? Because I've thought about every time that I've kind of like forced myself to be like, hey, I'm going to go get that nice car, or I'm going to go get that nice, place to live, or I'm going to go get the boat. Every time I've forced myself to do that, it's forced me to go and make more money. And it's forced me to level up my entire life as a function of it. It's almost like a game that I'll play with myself where it's like, hey, like, I think a lot of people think, and I used to be this way, this is how I was kind of raised with a scarcity mindset. My parents are middle class. My mom grew up in Taiwan. She's a foreigner. And both of my parents know the value of working hard and saving your money and not taking any risks. They always taught me from a young age.
That was my family. Same thing with my family. 100% the same thing.
Diversify.
Yeah.
Don't take any risks. Play it safe. And so that's all I've kind of known growing up. And so I've had to train myself out of this way of thinking. And, I think most people, when there's something that they want, maybe it's a nice thing, maybe it's a nice watch. You look like a man that likes nice watches.
Thank you.
Or it's a nice car, or it's a nice place to live. You're going to go rent a nice apartment with a great view, and it's a little bit out of your budget. You don't know if you can afford it. I think the default for most people is, oh, I can't afford it. They go into a defensive mode, the scarcity mode. They're like, hey, I can't afford it. But what I notice is a lot of like successful entrepreneurs, the people that are playing the highest levels, people that are playing, they're thinking from a place of abundance, and they ask themselves, how can I afford that? And it's almost like a game that you play with your head, and it's like, okay, well, like certain things, I would say almost everything that I've done up until this point in the last 6 years, whether it's a real estate deal that I really want to buy, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to buy it, but I'm gonna take step one, and I'm gonna commit to the target. And I'm gonna figure out how to buy it. and 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and all of a sudden I now bought this real estate deal that I 3 months ago I had no idea how I was going to buy, but I committed to the target. Same thing with buying nice things. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to do it and I'm going to figure it out. And I'll commit to the target. And it forces me to think, how am I going to afford that versus, hey, I can't afford that. And it forces me to like almost go and like hustle and figure out a way to use it as a platform to make more money so I can then afford it. And then once I get into it, that's now the new baseline of my lifestyle. And now my entire life levels up as a function of it. My network levels up as a function of it. More opportunities arise as a function of it, all because I simply just committed to the target and ask myself, how can I afford it versus I can't afford it.
I love that. So I learned that something very similar to you because I grew up middle class, don't take a lot of risks, save your money, do all of those things. And that's what that's what my parents did the best they could. But it was very educational to me to not say, because I used to always say, oh, I can't afford that, or I wish I had that. But say, how can I afford it? Not allow yourself to, you're not allowed to say, even in your own mind, that you can't afford something. You have to say, how can I afford it? And it changes because when you say, I can't, it right away shuts down your creativity. You're like, oh, I can't do it. I don't even need to waste brain power on it. Where if you say, how can I? Now your brain has to go into, how does it make it happen? And it opens up the world. And like you said, there's so many other things that are involved with that you can't even fully quantify, like, attracting certain people into your life or going to certain events and networking with certain people. There's something just about it that happens. I definitely think you should enjoy. For me, I was never motivated by having a big dollar amount in the bank. I just wanted to do stuff. So for me, it's freedom units is what you could call them, instead of like, because the money itself doesn't mean that much in comparison. Like it's a ever-changing currency, that's devaluing. Spend it on things that are good, that you can go, like I'll give you an example. My brother, fireman, now he's working with me. You've met him. But before, when he was a fireman, he had injured his back. He had 2 now 3 back surgeries, all messed up. I was able to help him get stem cells down in Mexico at CPI, right? That was a cool thing that I would not have been able to do previously, but I found a way to do it. And in fact, I had even in my goals said like, hey, I want to find a way to do this. Or I, like I said, I mentioned go living on a boat. You got this yacht. All those experiences that you're going to have are so much more valuable than the money ever will be. But I also do think that, I'm not saying go into debt. Like I'm to buy those things. I'm saying find a way to make it work and become financially literate, make the right investments into assets that can help you achieve that. I think some people want the car, want the watch, they go into debt. They essentially make themselves slaves, indentured servants, because that's what bad debt, consumer debt will do to you, instead of saying, hey, how can I become financially literate? How can I find ways to properly afford this? And it's not that you're delaying gratification, because you're not like waiting till you're 90 or whatever, but you're finding a way to be creative, to find a way to make more income, have some cash flow, and then make it possible. But yeah, sitting on a bunch of cash, if I die and I have a monstrous amount of money in the bank, like, but
That
I
doesn't
didn't
make
do
you
it. Yeah,
happy.
yeah, that's nothing.
And some people listen to this, they might find a lot of value in just having cash in the bank. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm
if
not saying
that's you,
don't have cash in the bank, by the way.
there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah,
and some people are like, hey, I don't enjoy nice things. I just want to have a lot of money. And I guess that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I think the takeaway is if you have nice things that you want, I think that you should just ask yourself, hey, how can I figure out a way to make this work? How can I turn this liability maybe into an asset? Or how can I, because I think I joke around the team all the time. I'm like, anything that we want to focus our attention on, we can do very well. And this year has been a game changer because I've really front loaded my schedule and my calendar to where I basically Monday and Tuesdays, I literally stack all my meetings, all my stuff. And Monday, Tuesdays, I'm like, I'm filled to the brim. But Tuesday at 5 p.m., I look at the rest of my calendar, and it's basically flex days the rest of the week. And so it allows me to focus on whatever I want to focus on and grow the business the rest of the week, right? And so I always joke with the team, I'm like, man, whatever it is we want to focus on, we can do very well. If we want to just focus on growing the podcast and ripping a bunch of podcasts with bigger name guests, we can do that. If we want to focus on just raising private capital and buying the best deals, we can do that. If we want to go through a period where like, hey, we're going to scale the mastermind business, we can do that. And so, I think for me, sometimes having something that I want to go get, it's a motivation and a drive for me to be like, hey, let me go hustle for X amount of months so I can go afford to get this thing. It's almost like a little game that you got to play with yourself to keep yourself motivated.
You have to have big goals. If you don't have big goals, you're gonna run stale. And so the bigger the goal, even if it's like this audacious goal where you don't know how you can accomplish it, but you have it and you want it, it's gonna help a lot. And whether that be, something as small as like where you live, but at a certain point you're gonna start, and I'm sure you have this ready, you start thinking even bigger, and you're like, hey, how can I help people around me? I want those people that are with me on the ride, I want them to be successful, right? So then it's bigger than just you or me. I want my team to be ultra successful, and I would love to have people that have worked with me be millionaires too. I'm like, but how is that possible? It's only possible if you scale, if you go big, right? If you stop at like, okay, I'm there, but they're never going to get there, it's over. And so, for me, we have a mission. We say it every day on our all hands meeting. It's to impact lives through technology. Everybody in the company knows the mission because they hear it on repeat literally every single day on our all hands. Our mission is to impact lives through touched by technology. And our vision is to help 6,000 businesses achieve their goals through technology. So we say our mission and vision every single day. Everybody knows what we're doing here, and they know what the value is that we're bringing. They know what our core values are because we talk about them all the time as well. When I talk about the mission of impacting lives, I'm not just talking about our customers. I am talking about our customers and impacting their lives, helping their businesses achieve their missions and goals. But I'm also talking about impacting the lives of my team. And honestly, of the two, the one that's closer to my heart is helping my team. Not that I don't care about, it's very important for me to help the customers achieve their goals, but the helping my team be successful and impacting their lives in a positive way to help them with their personal, professional, financial goals is huge, and it gives me a lot of drive. It's an intense responsibility too that I feel to the people that are working on my team, not the ones that are sometimes you
The ones that earn it.
the ones that are in it and that are aligned and that are pushing for success with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really big. We have a entity within our org chart and within the Summers Capital GP side. And so 20% of the Summers Capital GP has basically a team LLC. So 20% of the Summers Capital GP I allocate towards this entity. And so the leadership positions on my team that earn it, that are in it, they're the ones that are going to be, truly in this to the end with me. And obviously they got to earn it, but they are in this team LLC to where they get 20% of the Summers Capital GP. So anything that we buy, the slice that Summers Capital will be getting, 20% of that goes to the leadership positions on the team. And, for me, exactly what you just said, like, it's bigger than me now. It's how can I create a vehicle that's now impacting the lives of others, especially the ones that are helping me build this thing, creates an alignment of interest for the deals to go good. But at a certain point, it's like, dude, I want other people to win as well. and I don't want to do this alone. And I want great people, and the great people that are with me, I want them to be riding with me.
Yeah, you want them to be
to the
business
end.
partners with you, not just
Yeah.
employees.
Yes.
I love that.
I do rev sharing as well with certain team members. And so, I think if you're listening to this and you're struggling to get people to be in alignment with the vision of your business, it's like, well, start to look at them as partners.
Yep.
And that will change real quick. The right ones,
It does.
at least.
It does. And it's also, when I was smaller, we were in a growth trajectory, but then we had this cultural, in the beginning I was just hiring people that I liked, that I thought were cool, of course skilled, but we weren't aligned on the mission and vision of where we're going as a company. And so there was some people that are like very comfortable with where we were. They didn't want to go bigger because going bigger is very uncomfortable. So there was some disunity and some drainers on the team that were happening. And as we were, going through that period of time, like I came to the realization, like if I don't grow, my good people are going to leave anyway because there's not any opportunity for them. The good people want opportunity. They have their own personal, professional, financial goals. And it's not that they don't like you. Maybe they love you, but if there's no opportunity, they can't stay.
Yeah, they
They
gotta
can't-
feel like
have
they're
to move.
progressing.
So you have to create the opportunity.
Yes.
And the only way is through growing. If your business is not growing, it's dying. I know that's cliche, but it's really true because you're just there is no cruising. It's just growth or death. And so you got to do it for your team.
Ephraim, it's been a pleasure, my man. So good to connect. Finally
you,
in
man.
person,
I
man.
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you. I'm very grateful for you and Amy being investors in everything that we're doing. And it's been a pleasure working with you. I know the team has had a great experience working with your team with the AI stuff, man. And I'm super, super excited to see where you go next. I'm inspired. I got to have you and Amy out on the boat. We got to do a proper dinner. Where can the listeners get in touch with you if they want to learn more about AI employees, all that good stuff, everything that you're building?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is fitsolutions.biz. You can reach out to me there. You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is King Spear, KINGSPEAR, so King Spear. And you can send me a DM. You can reach out on the website. If you are interested in the AI and you reach out, I will personally make it a point. If you mention a podcast or Rich, I will personally make it a point that I am personally on that call and consult with you. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a nice little personal touch there, my
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And by the way, at King Spear, that's a hell of a handle. I'm surprised no one's offered you to buy that Instagram
You know
handle
what?
yet in the
It's,
fishing
I
game.
guess it's for sale. If someone wants it,
Yeah.
they can buy it. But
King
I've had
Spear.
it. Yeah.
If I was a spearfisher, I'd be like, I want that handle.
That's
man.
right.
That's a hell of
That's
a brand
right.
right there. We had to trademark that.
Thank you.
He's Ephraim Ebstein. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.